her opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman Graves, for holding this hearing on the transportation needs of rural America. I believe that there is an important shared community of interest between rural and urban America that I think many members are unaware of, and I want to address in at least part of my opening remarks. It is true that nearly 3/4 of all bridges and lane miles of public road are located in rural areas. 1/3 of all vehicle miles traveled in this country occur in rural areas. Freight traverses these roads and bridges every day as goods move from our nation's ports, manufacturing centers, and distribution hubs, eventually to reach consumers. Our national parks, national forests, wildlife refuge, and recreation areas are largely located in rural areas. These roads and bridges must be 100% funded by the federal government. Economic activity from the federal lands of which I speak, most of them in rural areas, that hold these resources add significantly to local economies. In 2013, visitors to our national parks spent $14.6 billion in communities within 60 miles of a park. One of my top priorities in this reauthorization bill is boosting funding for the Federal Lands Transportation Program, which I believe will have a disproportionately positive effect on rural lands, which are disproportionately dependent on these 100% federally financed roads and bridges. MAP 21 made some significant policy changes that affect infrastructure in rural areas. As we will hear in testimony today, MAP 21 shifted funding from locally owned infrastructure eligible for federal aid. Commissioner Fox's testimony cites that MAP 21 actually reduced funding available to locally owned highways and bridges by an astounding 30%. So while I appreciate the need to focus on meeting the transportation needs of rural America, this Congress must move beyond simply talking about needs and start coming up with solutions. The time is running out on us. The July 31st deadline looms before us when highway and transit program authorizations expire, and the Highway Trust Fund is set to fall to dangerously low levels. We now have just 18 days left before the deadline to pass an extension and find new revenues to shore up the trust fund. There's no excuse for why, yet again, we have come so far to the wire on this. In May, Congress wasted the opportunity to act. Now we are running through another construction season on fumes. Without certainty over the future of highway transportation funding, states and local governments have slowed and delayed projects, delayed signing contracts, and delayed hiring workers. We have known for years that we need a sustainable solution to shore up the Highway Trust Fund. The shortfall is $92 billion over the next 6 years just to maintain current funding levels. The longer we wait to fix this problem, the more expensive it will become to preserve our infrastructure. In May, when the House was asked to vote on the last extension, I noted that the real test will be how quickly Congress moves after we pass an extension to develop a funding plan for a long-term bill. The Senate has now given us a start we cannot afford to miss. This morning, the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee agreed to the highway title of a bipartisan 6-year surface transportation bill. The bill provides $278 billion for highway programs through 2021, which includes modest increases for core programs, as well as funding for a new freight program and new assistance for major projects. We are now just 18 days away from the deadline to reauthorize and fund our nation's roads, bridges, and transit systems. If Congress does not identify additional revenues for the Highway Trust Fund by July 31st, the Department of Transportation will have to delay or deny reimbursements to states at the height of the construction season. I know that our subcommittee chairman and Chairman Schuster stand firm in wanting our committee to move a robust long-term bill. Leadership and the tax writing committees must now reveal their plan to resolve this crisis so that members on both sides of the aisle can consider it in the light of day before they are asked to pass yet another